Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is a Fellhoelter Pens, Fellhoelter Designs, I suppose, TiBolt pen, and this is the deluxe model. There's a standard model that doesn't have any of these dimples and divots here, but this one right here is deluxe, and I actually want to thank one of my viewers who is himself deluxe, a guy named John, who sent this to me straight from the factory so I'd get a chance to handle it new, and then I'll be sending it along to him afterwards. So John, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity. I've been looking at these for a while. Let's do a quick size comparison here. First against your standard little Bic click stick pen, and this little pen, which I believe I lifted out of a Hampton Inn. Sorry about that there, Hampton. Right here is the Prometheus Alpha pen, which is one of my very favorite titanium EDC sorts of pens. The Kaweco Lilliput, a little tiny fountain pen, which probably gets more pocket time than anything else. A more tactical option, the Hinderer Investigator. The Parkajada, a less tactical option. And this right here is a Keras Customs fountain pen. So we can see that, well, this is about pen size. There's nothing too shocking about the size going on here. Also a note about the designer. This is Brian Fellhoelter. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. But either way, many of you may know him as a knife designer. But this is one of his as well. And like I said, there's a standard version as well that's $5 less. This is 150. Standard's 145. But this is the deluxe. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this particular pen. Okay, so on the good side, first off, this is a very beefy pen, meaning that you could do whatever you'd like to it. You can try and bend it, you can drop it, you can throw it, I'm sure, if you wanted to. You're not really going to injure this pen particularly. The opening and closing mechanism is very beefy and unproblematic, and, you know, if you're a person who feels like you want to carry a pen for self-defense, which is apparently a thing that people do, you know, poke people with your pen, I imagine this would work just fine for you. But the thing is, it's not as tactical, it's not as crazy looking as some pens, and so if the TSA or anybody else looks at this, it's just a damn pen, which is really what it is at the end of the day. So it's beefy enough for you're in a mall ninja who might want a tactical pen, but it's a-okay for everyday carry, which is beautiful. Next thing, the machining on this guy is very, very nice. If we take a look here at some of these details afforded to you by the custom version, these little divots up here and again up here, as well as just elsewhere, you can see that, well, it's beautifully done. It's got a stonewash finish on most of the titanium here, although you've got a polish inside these little grooves, which is nice, or at least a working finish. I'm not sure if he went so far as to polish. You know, everything about this guy, there's enough detail on this pen that the pen is interesting to look at and to stare at, but it's also not so fancy that it starts to become a pain in terms of, you know, there's too much going on here. So I like very, very much that. I mean, even the screws are kind of nice. If we take a close look here, you can see they're a nice little Torx screw with a good chamfer on the face of them, flat portion. I mean, it's very nicely made, and I appreciate that very much as kind of a snob for that. It's also very, very quiet when shaken. You can kind of hear a little something if you give it a hard shake in this direction, but even still, it's just barely audible, even in a quiet room, so don't worry too much about cracking, you know, clankety-clankety. You know, it's no worse than a bunch of other pens out there in the world. So there you go. The refill on this guy is very nice. It comes with a Schmidt Easy Flow 9000 cartridge. And, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Kind of a hybrid between a ballpoint and a rollerball. Works very, very nicely. No real complaints. And it takes any kind of Parker refill, too. So if you prefer your Quink, you can get your Quink. I mean, here, I'll pop it open for you and you can see. Just a boring little refill. Got a little spring, you got a refill, case freaking closed. That's really all that's going on here. So that's nice, and it's good that they put a refill that's worth a damn on there. By the way, a little O-ring there. Nice little touch. Help keep the cap on. Next thing I got to comment about, and the little line disappears when you screw that back on, next thing I got to comment about is the clip on this guy. This has a very, very nice clip as far as pens go. I say that for a few reasons. It's got a nice big ramp here, which makes it very easy to get into and out of your pocket, even like a thicker pocket, like your pants pocket. I carried this guy around in my jeans pocket for, you know, probably the better part of a week, and had zero trouble getting it in and out of there. That's a beautiful thing. The tension on it is also very nice. It's got enough tension that it's not going to go anywhere, but at the same time, it doesn't really fight you putting it in and out of the pocket. It's got some nice subtle laser engraving on there. I mean, sure, it's got his name on there, but it's no worse than anything else in the world. And, you know, from a distance, you can't even hardly tell that there's anything on there in most angles. So it's not obnoxious in the same sense that some clip engraving can be. But basically, the clip on this guy is pretty excellent. You can also, by the way, if you overextend the clip, just flip it around and screw these back in and use the body of the pen itself to rebend the clip. Kind of a nice little trick there. But great clip, and that makes this overall a very nice pen to carry. I enjoyed carrying this pen very much because, well, it had very few compromises for that, and so that's nice. There is also a smaller model for those of you who are curious, who want something, a little bit more in line with your Hinderer Investigator sort of size. It's called the TiBolt. It's a little bit more expensive, actually a fair bit, $50 more, and takes a very different refill, but still, that's out there, so you've got the options there. The ergonomics on this pen are very nice. There's one exception I'll talk about a little bit later, but once this is in your hand, it feels very, very nice. There's not a whole lot of anything wrong with it. It balances nicely. It feels good. There's no cap to post. It's just good. There's enough texture for a grip, but not so much texture that it's just like, oh my God, are you trying to kill me with texture here? And then finally, the weight on this guy is very nice. Here, I'll pull out my happy little scale, and we'll drop this guy on here. Come on now. Looks like we're looking at 1.45 ounces, 1.44, which is not really out of line. This little Hinderer here is about the same weight, but it's just a little smaller. The Prometheus Alpha is it's a little heavier. So this is a nice lightweight pen, all told. I mean, it feels very, very nice weight-wise. It gives you enough that there's substance to it, but it's not too heavy. So there's just a lot of good here with this pen. It's got a great weight. It's got nice ergonomics. There is a smaller model if you care to. The clip is great. It comes with a very nice refill. It's pretty much silent when you shake it. It's nicely machined, and it is very, very beefy. So you don't have to worry about injuring it, no matter what use you end up putting it up to. Let's talk about what's great here. So what's great about this pen is the bolt action to it. I mean, a lot of people kind of equate the TiBolt with bolt action pens. This was one of the really forerunners in the market, and I can see why. It's got a very nice, very smooth, very easy bolt action pen. The spring tension is just right, and it's pretty uniform throughout the whole thing. This just makes it very, very easy to deploy and to release. I mean, this is something you can deploy and undeploy without even thinking about it. You pull it out of your pocket, and bam, suddenly you're ready to go. You're good, you're writing, then put it away and it's right there. It's really intuitive and it's really natural, unlike, for instance, the tactile turn, which had a weird bolt approach that just didn't work out so well. It's also got a very nice little ball end for this. I mean, if we take a closer look at this piece, it is a little ball sitting on a stock, and so, it's nice because you have the entirety of the surface of the ball. It's just small enough. It's just beautifully designed in that way. I'll also say it's very fidget friendly. If you're a fidgeter, this is a great pen for you because you can fidget with this guy all freaking day long. Your neighbor's going to hate you because it is clicky every time you do it. It's not a pen that's as straightforward to particularly release silently, but you can do it 100%. But it's fidgety like crazy. That's good. It's also because of that intuition, it's very quick to deploy, and frankly, I would just say this is probably the best bolt-action system I've handled on a pen. The Max Madco wasn't far behind, but this is just really, really exceptionally well done. So it's smooth, and it's natural, and it's just a beautiful thing. This bolt-action is bolt-action being done right. So that's what's great. The action is A-OK spectacular. Let's talk about what's bad. So on the bad side, first off, this does have a definitive break-in. That's not so much bad as a simple fact of mechanical life, but the day I got it was a lot less smooth than today. And I will say as well that a cleaning definitely helped out. I've noticed that a little bit of, every time I manipulate it a fair amount, a little bit more gunk kind of works its way into this channel, and so I just hit it with a Q-tip every so often. It's not a bad thing. It's cleaning out, and I'm sure in a couple of years this is going to be just ungodly smooth. But don't expect perfection day one. That's just a simple fact of life. Also, a cleaning made this guy way nicer. Just pouring some rubbing alcohol through the barrel, the end off, and the refill out definitely smooth things out again. So there you go. Next thing that's not terrible, but it's definitely something I'd prefer to see different, is that the spring here is non-captive. So if you're changing the refill and this rolls away, you're going to be on the phone to Fellhoelter, and that may not be ideal. So there you go. Next thing, the price on this guy is high. You're looking at $150 for a freaking pen. Now, for a lot of people, that sentence just doesn't make any sense. $150 for a pen? That's ridiculous. And it is, absolutely. This is a luxury good. That said, I don't really feel like I'm getting ripped off here. I can see $150 in the construction of this pen. It's nicely done. It's well made. That doesn't particularly bother me. It's a lot of money, absolutely. And if it doesn't make sense to you to spend that much, don't spend that much. But this is nicely done even for the price. So, it's bad, but it's not ugly. It's not the end of the world. Next issue, and probably the worst issue with this guy, is just that there is a lot sticking out of the barrel of this pen. As you're using it, there's really only one comfortable position for a right-handed person to write with, and that's with the clip up and this guy over here. Because if you rotate it this way, then the ball starts hitting the top of your hand here, and that throws things, that throws things off a little bit. If you rotate it further, then the clip's going to want to be digging into your thumb, and that's not going to be great. So basically, every time you put this in hand, you need to find this one particular position. And for left-handed writers, and I am deeply not a left-handed writer, I don't know that this is really going to make sense at all. You might be able to find one grip for it, but even still, then the bolt action isn't going to be quite right. So this is kind of limited by the amount of stuff sticking out the barrel. This is not a terribly ambidextrous pen, and even for righties, there's not a whole lot of flexibility to how you hold it relative to a conventional pen, certainly relative to something like this where it's just a cylinder. So that's a little bit frustrating. I'd kind of like to see a little bit more condensation, if you will, of all the various elements into one place on the pen. Not the end of the world either. So that's what's bad here. There's a lot of stuff sticking out the barrel, and that means that it's questionably ambidextrous. It's a lot of money, $150. It's got a non-captive spring, and it definitely will break in, but that's a fact of life. On the ugly front, honestly, I tried, and I couldn't come up with anything particularly ugly here. Like I said, the price is going to be a complete no-starter for a lot of people, but if you're willing to pay that price, there's nothing that ugly about this guy. So let's go ahead and jump into the final conclusions then. Final conclusions, this is a very, very solid gem. I mean, this is just a great pen, absolutely. It's beefy enough for pretty much anything. I had no concerns about injuring this while carrying it. That stonewash finish will hide any dings or anything. I should have mentioned that earlier, but whatever. And so that's beautiful. It's great in the hand. The ergonomics, at least for a right-handed person, work A-okay if you're in that good position. And the weight is great. The balance is great. The action on this guy is great, and it just carries very nicely with this clip and just its overall approach to life. This was a great pen to have in the pocket. Quick, easy, non-problematic. And I will also say that the deluxe version definitely makes sense adding $5 more. I would probably go this deluxe version every day of the week. It adds enough panache to the thing that why not, right? I'll also say this is probably the best bolt-action pen. Actually, no, this is easily the best bolt-action pen I've used. I mean, it is worlds better than the tactile turn bolt-action sliders and gliders. They're just not even in the same country in terms of fit and finish and action. And it's a little bit more ornate, and it's definitely more designed, if you will, than the Max Madco, which in titanium would be $125. So I'd probably go this route over any of the other bolt-actions I've tried yet. But like I said, for a lot of people, $150 spent on a pen just doesn't make any sense. And, in that case, there were a lot of really good options, ranging from, $9 for your pocket jotter up to, something closer to 60 or $70, all the way up to even higher. You can pay $260 or way beyond in Fountain World. But if you are somebody who would even think about paying that much for a pen, this is a damn good way to spend $150 on a pen. And so if you're after a really good, nicely designed bolt-action pen, this is, I think, honestly the best choice I've found, and it's a solid freaking gem. I'm probably not going to run out and pick one up because I tend to carry smaller pens, but at the same time, I would totally buy one of these and would totally carry it in a world where this made a little bit more sense for me. So, there you go. Hope this is interesting, that I made the right call, and sorry guys, but I got a bolt. Okay. Bye, everybody.